The talent difference between a lot of the teams is really pretty small, and so it's a challenge every week, and I think, again, people are starting to take notice of that.
Hey folks, Mr. Bowtie here. Keep banging home that red subscribe button on your screen so that way you can stay up to date on all the great local sports coverage that TV and radio refuse to cover. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
It's a really good league. I mean, it's a league that, I think people are starting to respect from a national standpoint. Obviously, the success that Central Florida's had through the years, winning some really big, high-profile games. Memphis has won some as well. Cincinnati obviously had a great football team last year and really showed, I think, people across the country, just what kind of league that we have.
Kind of feels like the NCAA is finally waking up, or the College Football Committee, that we need to get more than 4 teams in, so that way the Central Floridas, the SMUs, and the Memphises get a chance to actually play for the title. Yeah, I think if you look at the makeup of the league, you look at the states that a lot of the teams are in, those are some of the best football states in the country. You look at Texas, you look at Ohio, you look at Louisiana, you look at Florida, those 3 states rank right at the top in terms of putting out high school football players. And so the thing that we are fortunate to have is we have a league that has a great footprint, and we have access to a lot of really good high school football players to recruit. And then I think that the other thing too is across the board, the league has done a really good job of bringing in, really talented, head coaches. You go and look around the league, a lot of these guys have had opportunities to move on to other schools and have chosen to stay where they are. I think, and again, it speaks to the emergence of the league and the level of commitment that a lot of teams in our league are starting to take when it comes to football and understanding how important it is to have success in football. So I'm excited about the group. Like I said, every single week you better be ready to play. It's going to be a competitive, exciting race to see who can win the American championship. So we're fired up about it. We know the Metroplex is great in the high school game, top high school football in the nation. We obviously know about the Cowboys, but for so long you didn't really think about DFW as college. But with TCU now and the Big 12 and with SMU growing, it feels like what you and Gary Patterson have done is now making DFW now that full 3-layer metropolis for football.
Yeah, and it should be. Look, there's not a better city in the country than Dallas, Texas for football. It's just not. It's, you go back and you look at the history of the Dallas Cowboys and really look at the early days of SMU and, filling the Cotton Bowl to 80,000 people back in the, 40s and 50s, and the success that those programs had, and, the history of the Cotton Bowl and the Texas OU game. There's been great college football in Dallas for a long time. Obviously, you look at the Pony Express days at SMU, that was the hottest ticket in town. Those guys were so fun to watch, and it was kind of where everybody wanted to be. They had all the stars on the sidelines and all the stuff like that, and it made it pretty cool to go to SMU games. And so, we're trying to get that back. And obviously, you look at the success that Gary's had at TCU and how long he's been able to sustain that success. It just shows you that there's tons of opportunity in DFW, and we just have to continue to get better, recruit locally. For us, recruiting always starts in our own backyard, and we've got to do a great job of doing that.
How do you recruit San Antonio? Because while DFW and Austin and Houston win all the state championships, in San Antonio, there's almost no signs, but you get 3 guys that were drafted in the NFL this year, so we know there's a lot of great individual pieces. How do you guys find those instead of just worrying about DFW?
Well, I think San Antonio is going through a little bit of what Austin went through, because, you go back and you look at the history of Austin high school football, it wasn't always great. There were some good teams back in the day, Reagan and LBJ and some of those teams, but you look at the emergence of Lake Travis, and you look at the emergence of Westlake, and those are some of the top football programs not only in Texas, in the country. And I think some of the same thing is starting to happen in San Antonio. I just think as the population continues to grow, there's more of an emphasis on high school football. You look at some of the really successful programs around the area with Smithson Valley and some of the success they've had through the years. And I think San Antonio high school football is getting better. I've always felt like it was very under-recruited. I felt like that there were a lot of really good players here that probably got overlooked a little bit just because there weren't as many of them as in Texas or in Dallas or Houston. So San Antonio is really important for us. Josh Martin recruits here for us. Josh is born in Smithson Valley and has some really strong ties to this area, and so I think it's really important for us to continue to recruit San Antonio.
You're probably, outside of Matt Wells, the most equipped coach to be able to recruit West Texas, because you're a Big Spring guy. And even if maybe there's some players that don't know a lot about SMU, you go out there, all you got to do is say Coach Dykes, and they automatically think about Spike Dykes, and that certainly has to help you out, just because out there the Dykes family name is such a legendary name.
Yeah, it does help for sure. I mean, one of our best football players is an offensive lineman from Lubbock, Coronado, which is my alma mater, and we just signed another really good player from this past recruiting class, and it's going to be important for us to recruit West Texas. It's a little bit like I said about San Antonio, a little bit overlooked. A lot of really good players in San Antonio that are, or in West Texas rather, that get overlooked, and the reason they do, it's just you got to get in a car, you got to fly into someplace, you got to drive someplace, and a lot of guys want to drive to fly into Houston and hit 20 schools, see 100 kids. Well, in West Texas, you may see 2 or 3 kids in a day, but that doesn't change the fact that they're very good players. Doesn't change the fact that there's always been a toughness associated with those kids that come out of West Texas, and kind of a blue collar approach, and so it's going to be important for us to continue to recruit out there.
And of course, Big Spring, I spent 5 years out there. You're a legend out there. Just one maybe a little quick story, or maybe one brief memory about being out there in the Permian Basin.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just high school football Friday nights. When I was growing up, my dad was at Midland Lee, and just those games with Midland Lee and Odessa Permian, those were some legendary games, and it was a fun place to grow up. Football was very important to the community. We all know kind of about Friday Night Lights and the book and the movie and the TV show and everything that personified what West Texas football is all about. And so, a lot of that stuff's true. A lot of those things are accurate, and there's a toughness and a dedication that's unique to West Texas. You're not just playing for yourself or your high school, but you're playing for your community in a lot of cases, and that makes it very exciting and fun to watch.
Get you out here on this one, Sonny. The name, image, and likeness. We know it's going to be a new frontier for everybody. How does SMU attack it? Because again, SMU may not necessarily have the same issues, say, as Texas or Oklahoma. How do you handle it? How do you keep the chemistry together when some players may get opportunities on the team and others may not get those?
Well, the thing that we have in Dallas is, we've got, I think it's 30-something Fortune 500 companies have their headquarters in Dallas, Texas, and so that gives you some pretty strong financial resources. There's a lot of big business in Dallas. There's a lot of big business that is owned or run by former SMU students and also former SMU football players. And so name, image, likeness is going to be a big opportunity for our guys. They're going to be able to leverage the Dallas market. I know Dallas market right now is the #1 fastest growing economy in the United States. And so that creates all kinds of opportunities for our players. And again, our alumni have always been supportive of our program, and we're very fortunate to have some powerful alumni and some guys that can make a big difference for us.
Sonny, thank you very much for the time, and best wishes on a successful 21 season for you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.